What's going on, everybody out there in YouTube world? It has been a hot minute since I've made a video of any kind, much less a disc golf video. I'm back in Michigan. If you've been following my my channel at all, which I'm guessing probably none of you have, but if you have, I moved to Texas for a little while. Now I'm back in Michigan, and I thought I'd make a little disc golf video for you. Something that I just really kind of felt like was needed out there for people that are just getting started in disc golf. There's all sorts of people that are starting new in disc golf this year, in the last 2 years, just because of all the hype around Discraft and Paul Macbeth and everything. So what I'm going to do for you guys today is I'm going to show you how I approach grip. And I'm going to use my fancy new gimbal here, which is really cool, and hopefully show you a very, very steady, up close, technical picture of how I approach the various different types of grips that I use throughout my disc golf game. And once again, I'm not a pro. I'm barely even AM3 rated. I'm not very good, I'm not gonna lie, but I do think that I have the fundamentals pretty well locked down, and I see a lot of people making some grip mistakes that kind of just hamper them from the get-go, and that, you know, that leads to a lot of frustration, a lot of things that could very easily go better and make them leaps and bounds more successful on the disc golf course than they would otherwise be. So let's take a look. All right, so bear with me a little bit here as I'm using a new piece of equipment here that I'm trying to test out, but I'm going to start in reverse order. Normally they say that you want to start with a putter, work your way up. I'm going to start with this driver because I think it's very important. So, as anywhere on the internet is going to tell you, a disc goes between these two fingers back to the meat of your hand, and that's how you're supposed to grip the disc, right? So I'm going to tell you how I go through my kind of regimen to how I'm supposed to actually get a hold of this disc, right? So for a driver, a wider rim driver, this is actually not very wide rim. This is a Heat, Discraft Heat. It's from the Disc Baron series from a couple years ago, discbaron.com. Check them out. They have awesome deals. They weigh every single disc. You get exactly what you want, and you get absolutely spectacular customer service and fast shipping. I'm not sponsored by them. I just really love Disc Baron. So this is how kind of I go through gripping a driver, right? So you're going to want to get your hand very, very flexed, like as extended as you possibly can, okay? For the driver, you're going to want to get it as extended as you possibly can, and then set that disc right here in the crease between your first and middle finger. Set that right there and push it so that it kind of forces your hand to form around it, right? So that's like a basic grip. If you just do that, that's a basic frisbee grip. You've got your first finger here, you've got some fingers tucked under here, you got your thumb on top. But what I really want you to kind of figure out is how to take this and force it in there, and then using your pinky, really basically only hold the disc with your pinky. You can kind of see how I'm only holding the disc with my pinky, and feel where that pressure point is, right? And how that feels. So 100% of the disc's weight is supported into the pad and the meat of my hand by my pinky right now, right? And so then from there, what I can do is I can flex my hand all the way out again, force that in there, stretch that pinky back, have 100% retention with my pinky, and then kind of work my hand or my fingers into a spot that feels comfortable and is supporting that pinky in a comfortable position to really retain the disc. So at this point, I have my first finger here, which is applying maybe 20% of its complete capacity for tension on the disc, and these two are maybe around 10%. My pinky's doing a lot of the work here, and you can feel at this point that there's a lot of tension up here in your forearm because of that pinky strength. And I haven't even put my thumb down yet. So we're going to work from here, right? This is a good baseline for a driver. So again, let's shake the hand out. Let's extend it all the way again. Let's push that disc in there. Let's find that back pinky spot, but then let's relax it a little bit and let the other fingers do a little bit of the work. And these two middle fingers here, bump them up to about 50 or 60% of what they're capable of. So you take the pressure off the pinky, and then you can curl that first finger under there. And then this is the important finger, right? You want 80 to 90% of what this finger can pinch. You want that amount on the disc rim, right? Okay, so let's move to the thumb. So this is what it looks like on the top right now. And I have not touched my thumb to the flight plate at all. A natural resting place for my thumb is going to be right about there. Okay, that's a natural resting place for my thumb, just on the pad. I don't want it to be on my knuckle. I don't want it to be pinched like that. I want it to be a natural resting place for my thumb. And then I want to apply about 80% pressure there on my thumb. And you can feel that again through your forearm. You're going to be able to feel your muscles engage in a way that maybe you wouldn't otherwise would when you grip a disc like this properly. And one of the really interesting things that I've noticed throughout my years playing, once again, is this is where my first finger is, the kind of foremost tip of my first finger is, and notice how much further on the flight plate the tip of my thumb is. It's in front of my first finger. It's not back here, right? Because if I was to put it back here behind my first finger and elevate the spot where the disc meets the meat part of my hand, that's actually going to give me less control over the disc. I want that disc to be down in here, which necessitates that my thumb moves in front of where my first finger is in terms of where it meets the rim and the flight plate in comparison there. So that is really how I grip a driver. And this heat here is an example. And for all of these discs, what you'll notice is that the majority of the pressure that you're putting on the disc is between these two fingers, right? So you want 80% here, you want about 80% here, you want about 50 to 60% of these capability, the pinching capabilities of these two fingers. You want that tucked here, meeting into the flight plate. Not pressed like this, but meeting into the flight plate. And then, maybe about 20 to 30% with that pinky there. And that's how I grip a driver. Okay, moving on to a fairway driver. This just happens to be one of the newer Page Pierce ESP stalkers. This is a fairway driver. You can see the rim is much smaller than a distance driver. I don't like the super wide rim distance drivers myself. Which is why I throw the heat. But this, there's only a very slight variation in this, right? So again, we're going to take our hand, we're going to extend those digits as far as we can. We're going to cram that disc into the spot where the bones separate between these two fingers right here. We're going to roll that disc back into the meat of our hands so that if we had to, we could potentially even just squeeze it between those two parts of our hands and hold it that way. But then we're going to press our pinky as far back as it can go. We're going to roll those two middle digits into their spot, and then we're going to curl that first finger in there. And then find, once again, a natural, comfortable spot for that thumb to land. Now, if you're like me and you like to have a little bit more control over your smaller rimmed fairway drivers, what I really like to do is do that, cram that back in there, find that spot with your pinky, roll those two fingers in, roll that first finger in, and then relax this finger by about 20%, and this bite like 50%, to where this finger is actually applying almost no pressure at all, more support to the flight plate than anything else. And then this cranks up to about like 90%. This finger cranks up to about 90%, and then the thumb really applies that pressure, opposing that significant pressure from your first finger there. And that's really your pinch point. And so these two fingers kind of relax a little bit, especially the pinky. It goes down to maybe like 30%. This finger goes down to about 30% as well. And this finger is really just supporting. It's not doing anything that's significant in terms of holding the disc into your hand. It's just supporting the flight plate. And that pinch point right here provides you a lot of control, especially when it comes to manipulating the angles. You can move your thumb in here and kind of release it on more of a hyzer angle. You can move your thumb more to the outside and kind of give it a more neutral flight. I like to meet the flight plate, this crease that you can feel on this side right here. I like to meet that spot as in the middle of my thumb as possible, and then kind of either fan grip like this or birdie grip like this. And that's how I like to throw kind of fairway driver size rims like this. All right, now on to the mid-range. This is a Tour Series Hemis Wasp that I just got from D-Glow this year. I love the Wasp a lot. I love it as a complement to the Buzz. The Buzz is my all-time favorite mid-range, but throwing a mid-range is a lot different than throwing either a distance driver or a fairway driver. So how do I do this? Once again, I want to extend my digits and flex my hand out as far as possible, cram that disc into that spot, and then especially for mid-ranges, I want to let my hand kind of relax, right? I want to kind of let it relax while this part here still meets this meaty part of my hand. So I want to extend, cram, relax, okay? Because mid-range is a lot more about touch and finesse than either a fairway driver or a distance driver is. So if I do that, let me just kind of show you here. If I do that, this is the way my hand kind of naturally falls onto the disc, right? It kind of falls into a fan grip. Again, the pinky is kind of pressed. But if I just relax my hand around the disc, it really just kind of falls into a natural fan grip. And that's a good starting point for a mid-range. But because it's still a mid-range and because it still has quite a bit of speed, I want to be able to maximize the potential of the disc. So what do I do to do that, right? So I take my first finger here, and right now, once again, the pinky is carrying the majority of the load of actually supporting the disc into my hand. I want to keep that pretty much consistent. The pinky, in terms of its amount of pressure that it's capable of, is still only at about 50%. So let's take this first finger, let's curl it a little bit so it kind of looks like that underneath. Let's take my thumb and move it to a more neutral spot like that, directly opposing the pressure that my first finger is putting on it. And let's pinch down with both that first finger here and that thumb here, directly opposing each other, right where the inside of this, the inside of the rim meets the flight plate. You can see it here, that ridge right there, directly where that opposes each other. Let's put 80 to 90% of my grip capability right there, and everything else is pretty well relaxed with the exception of my pinky, which is about at 40%. Okay, so once again, flex the hand, relax the hand, put that first finger underneath, pinch really hard, 80% here, 80% here, up to 90%. Pull that pinky in at about 70 to 80%, and then just kind of relax these two middle fingers. And that gives you a lot of control over the flight plate. And the other thing that I really like to do here is move my thumb to the inside, depending on how much hyzer release I want, right? So if I want a huge hyzer release, I can move that thumb all the way over here. And yes, it takes pressure over here. And I probably wouldn't ever do something this extreme. But just for a illustration standpoint, I could throw that disc like that and just expect a significant reduction in distance. If I move it more to here, I can now feel where that bead is pressing against this crease in my finger. I can feel that change in tension just by moving from all the way out here towards the middle to about here. And that's still a good pinch point. And I'm still going to expect a little bit of distance reduction, but I'm going to also expect a lot more hyzer. As opposed to if I move that to about here, which is more directly opposed, then I've got a much more neutral flight, right? So my arm's out of frame, you can't really see it. But if I'm holding my arm exactly straight and I move my thumb from there to there, right? Or move my thumb from there to there, you can just see the difference where moving that thumb inside gives you a little bit more of a hyzer release. And on a wasp like this, personally, I'm not gonna want a huge hyzer release. I'm gonna wanna throw it more neutral. So I'm gonna keep my thumb directly opposed to this part of my finger where the bead meets my first finger and hold that pinch point as tight as I can. And that's really how I try and grip mid-ranges. So let's move on to putters. Okay, so the putter is probably one of the more complicated ones because you generally throw two different types of shots with a putter. You putt, obviously, around the basket to try and put it in the chains, and you throw up shots. I'm not going to tell you what to do for your putting grip because honestly, even I change my putting grip versus my upshot grip. So I'm not going to try and tell you what to do. The putting grip inside the circle is really all about what feels comfortable to you. But what I do want to show you is how I find a good grip for my upshots and for driving with a putter. So once again, we've got our hand out here. I'm right-handed. What I don't want to do for a putter is extend my digits like this, like we've done for the last one. I don't want to do that. I want to keep my hand nice and relaxed. And what I actually want to do, as opposed to before where we were trying to find a crease here, I want to find this spot right here, okay? And this is not how you should grip a putter. This is not at all how you should grip a putter. This is just for illustration purposes, okay? What I want you to do is hold your putter like this, all four fingers underneath, your thumb kind of like that, kind of over the middle finger here, kind of like that, and just kind of bop it around. And what you're going to find is that as you do this, the putter kind of finds a natural spot along this pointer finger where it feels comfortable. You're going to kind of feel that as you try and spin the putter like that, your first finger tries to do some work without you even really necessarily telling it to do it. So my first finger ends up kind of pinching in a little bit, and it actually ends up on this crease in my hand as opposed to this one. So what I like to do, because it's comfortable to me, is pinch here as opposed to here. So I pinch there, and then I work that putter into the meat of my hand. And now this can cause some problems. It does potentially cause some problems because that angle versus that angle, when you're looking at it this way, so this is on this digit here, that versus that, you can see how this is more nose down, right? So this is a more typical fan grip with it on this first digit here, but that's not as comfortable to me. I don't feel like I have quite as much control over a wider, fatter rimmed disc like a putter when I put my first finger just wrapped around this part as opposed to this part. So what I like to do is I like to put my crease of this finger here on that ridge and pinch really, really hard and really, really far down that way, and sandwich that thing into the meat of my hand and fan the rest of my fingers, and then apply a lot of pressure with my thumb here. So as opposed to other discs where my thumb might look more like that, I really want to press that down to keep that nose down. And all those fingers, this is maybe at like 30 or 40%. This is at like 60%, and this is at like 80%. So I'm really doing a lot of work down here to keep these fingers pressing hard into the rim of the disc in order to just help keep that nose down. Now, this is how I throw. Another option is, again, keep your hand relaxed. Putters are all about touch. More than any other disc, putters are about touch. So keep your hand relaxed. Don't flex it out like with the other ones. Keep it relaxed. Find that spot. Roll it into the meat of your hands and just naturally and comfortably curl your fingers around it, right? So it might look something like that. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But then gradually and incrementally increase the pressure here and here first, right? So if I increase the pressure there just because of the way my hand is shaped, then I end up tucking my first finger way, way deep. I don't really like that, but your hand might be different. But this right here for putters is the most important. And just like mid-range, the second most important is your pinky. And then these fingers, they can be anywhere between like 0% and 50, 60%, just to control the angle on that flight plate so that you can throw it with the touch and the angle that you want. And that's really how I try and grip all of the discs that I throw in my bag. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you guys sticking with me, even though I haven't been making a whole lot of disc golf videos lately. And hopefully you'll come back again soon. So have a good one. We'll see you.